Hello everyone, thanks so much for coming on a sunny Monday. My name is George, I'm from Code. Hopefully you won't hear too much from me tonight because I'm not a chef and that's why we're here. Firstly, just wanted to say thank you very much obviously to Medlock Canteen for having us. What a lovely space to be having this in, and also to Toast for making the chef series happen, which is really a great opportunity for us to chat about the industry we love. Yeah, I think we can pretty much crack straight into it. So we're obviously here for the chef series to chat to these lovely people. So first of all, if maybe we start with you, Tom, if you could all just introduce yourselves for anyone who doesn't know, and also say who you are and where you're currently cooking.
Yeah, I'm Tom Barnes, I'm the chef at Skof.
Great. I'm Rosie, I'm the head chef at Higher Ground.
I'm Ruby, I'm head chef at Medlock Canteen.
And I'm Danny, and I'm the head chef for Osma.
Cool. Yeah, and I think something that kind of like, you know, a lot of people notice at the moment is how amazing the food scene is in Manchester and how much it's evolving and how quickly it's evolving. So I kind of just wanted to ask you all to kick off, like, what's your maybe apart from your own restaurants, what's your favourite thing about the food scene currently in Manchester? Yeah, what do you love about it most?
For me, it's just there's so much amazing offerings here. You know what I mean? It's so diverse, and like no matter what you're in the mood for, there's something for you. And yeah, so I just think there's so much going on in the city, and it's just like a really cool sort of vibe to it as well. Everyone's like really nice and friendly. But yeah, there's just such a massive offering. That's what I love.
I would say it really feels like there's a lot of momentum and energy like around us at the moment. There's always new places opening up, and there's something that's kind of really inspiring about that, like that buzz and that kind of momentum happening when it creates this climate of people that are supporting like one another, really excited to go to all of these kind of new openings, and not necessarily like viewing it as competition. I think that it's a really lovely community that we have here in Manchester for hospitality.
Yeah, I definitely think to touch on that, I think as someone that trained in London and that cooked in London, I think here you have a lot more of a sense of community and everybody wants to support each other. Yeah, and just go out and eat good food and like places that you love and like people that you know, and I think yeah, there's just a lot more of a sense of community here that you probably don't have down south, I'd say.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. After travelling a lot, it's nice to type of be in Manchester, and everywhere you go you're making friends, and there's so much more of a friendlier culture in hospitality here. It's not really competitive, it's just more about making the dining scene bigger and better, which is good.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I think something we definitely noticed when coming up from down south is how friendly everyone is in comparison, which is really nice. Yeah, and I guess like touching on your point, Rosie, around sort of it being a really inspiring community, I just wonder, like, sort of with so much happening at the moment, is there anything particularly that you guys are finding inspiring in like the Manchester scene, either food or otherwise? Like new exciting openings or sort of like other bits which have really caught your eye? Maybe Rosie, since you said it's going to go first.
Yeah, definitely. I just think it's, for me, what I meant by that was certainly feeling inspired by when people come into our restaurant or when we go into other people's restaurants, like just sort of catching up really and really feeling that sense of like mutual support, I would find is like the inspiring thing there for me.
Yeah, and then sort of thinking about how things have changed over the last year or so, or like sort of just in recent times, like with so much new stuff opening, have you seen a change in dining habits as well, and like how consumers are interacting with restaurants and other like food places in Manchester? Maybe starting with you, Danny.
I would say that over the last year especially, that people or customers are expecting a lot more value for the money, and I think it used to be a lot more in portion size, given that we're in the north in Manchester, but I like to think that it's moving more into the direction of like the product is the value or the work that's gone into it is the value. And I think obviously it depends where you are, but like I've noticed that when people can see that someone's cooking it and chefs are making it and the effort that's going into the service that people are getting these days, like there's a lot more value given into that side of it, which I think is good really, because it's about time that it happened in Manchester for the customer side of it as well, to know the work that goes into it.
Anyone else? Ruby, do you feel like you've seen a change?
Yeah, I think definitely for Medlock, we see a lot more people that want to have a lot more like comfort food and food that they recognise and food that's a little bit more accessible to them, and something not necessarily that you'd make at home, but it's like something that you'd make at home but a chef is doing it for you. So it's just more of that like comfort food. I've definitely noticed that here anyway.
Yeah, and I guess sort of like with that accessibility point, it's a really important point. It's like you say, it's something that is a big part of Medlock, and sort of, do you think you see a lot more people coming back time and time again because it's something which is that slightly comforting element to it, and so you see a lot more return dining compared to maybe other restaurants?
Yeah, definitely. I see like just people even coming up to the kitchen and speaking to me at the pass and just being like, when are you going to get this back on, or when are you going to get that back on? They like to come here because it's familiar, it's accessible, you know, and I think that's definitely a big part of dining in Manchester, I think, as well. It's great to see repeat customers, you know, and just people that recognise you as the chef that's cooking their food that they love.
Rosie, do you feel like you've seen any changes in the last week?
I mean, it's difficult really to say that when I still think, you know, we've been open for 2 years now, but I still think that we're a very young restaurant, and so it's really been like the last couple of years have been a period of us like learning what we should and shouldn't do, like what people like, and so it's quite hard to pinpoint exactly what I would call like a habit, let's say. I think one thing that kind of helps us with trying to see the direction that people are going to go in is by having like a set and an a la carte menu. So it means that, you know, no matter what mood somebody's in, like they could come for a plate of pasta and a glass of wine, or they could come for like a full like seasonal sharing menu, and add things onto that as well. So I think that kind of doesn't really like help with trying to pinpoint like a trend, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar position. We've not even been open a year yet, so it's, you know, but I think we've been full every day, which has been like amazing. You know, like been really grateful for that. And I think a big thing of that was trying to offer different sort of menus lengths, because not everybody wants to be there for the whole night, you know. So but you know, every day is different for us. There'll be some lunch, because we do a 4-course lunch menu, but there's some days where we'll sell loads of that, and then there'll be other days where everyone goes tasting. So it's hard to pick, like, you know, put a finger on a trend or whatever, anything like that.
Yeah, and I guess I wanted to ask you about sort of opening Skof in a time where maybe I feel like some people are moving away from kind of like the more tasting menu style of things, and sort of how confident you felt with the concept, and maybe sort of like what the thought process behind it was in order to make it sort of the concept that you wanted, but in a way that was accessible for people to sort of, like you say, engage with at different levels, with different lengths of courses and stuff.
Yeah, we wanted to give some options. Obviously, I was very nervous before we opened, and like you say, you see a lot of things now about people moving away from tasting menus and stuff, but for me, you know, I still love to do it. It's something that I believe in, and I think, you know, we can offer something that's really cool, and a big part of it was trying to get the right atmosphere in the restaurant, so it feels fun and friendly and not stuffy, and somewhere you wouldn't mind, like, the hours pass you by quite quickly, and like, you know, a lot of people say that, like, you know, they've had a really good time, it's been a lot of fun, and they've not realised they've been in there for sort of 3 hours. But again, the different lengths of tasting menu was another thing. The 4-course is really it's, you know, I think it's very good value, but it's also like it gives people who might not be quite so sure if they want to come out and have a full tasting menu, like they come out and have the 4-course lunch, and the amount of times we've had people come back and say, like, oh, we want to try the full thing now. That's been a big help to us, I think.
And then also sort of like on Danny's point, Rosie, about sort of that perception of value. Do you think, especially with the sort of the emphasis which Higher Ground place on seasonality and sort of those types of things, do you think that that's something you see diners placing more value on as well, or do you think it's something which requires an educational piece around it?
Sorry, I was just going Rosie, but then also yeah, opening up to you guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were very sensitive at the beginning that we didn't want to set out to actively educate anybody. I think that seasonality has a really integral connection to what we're doing at Higher Ground, but at the end of the day, it's still an experience that we want guests to enjoy. It's exercising the art of hospitality. I really think that it's more about celebrating and communicating rather than educating like our narrative. I mean, certainly it has very deep ties with what we want to do in the future as well, and what we are doing with Cinderwood being such a kind of integral part of how we run the restaurant day to day. But I would never say that we are trying to educate people when they walk in the door, because we want it to be relaxed and fun and for people to have a good time. And if they learn a little bit more about what we're doing and why we're doing it, then that's great, but it's never preachy in any way.
And then maybe Danny, yeah, sort of on the point of you sort of saying that people are perceiving value now outside of portion size, sort of where do you see those value points emerging?
Mostly in, I suppose, what they're ordering. Like, I mean, I don't know, that's kind of difficult. Like, in Prestwich, there was only 2 of us as chefs, so I think that then we ended up sometimes, and maybe it just felt like that because there was less chefs, but people then ordered more of them because they were then seeing more work that went into it, and it was changing very regular every week. And like people, we got a lot of repeat custom from that because they were coming home to the same restaurant and getting that comfort, like Ruby said, but they were getting then to experience a whole different menu every time and getting to then know the chef, and then I'd recognise their names and then put on certain things that I know they really liked, or, you know, stuff like that. And it obviously takes a lot more work, but I felt like over the 5 years, we got so much repeat custom to the point where now we've closed, like they've then followed us to exhibition, which is really nice, and like going out for dinner with them and stuff, but now they pay, which is nice. But like stuff like that, and kind of making that extra effort and connection with them. So they would then see those little moments and remember them and then tell more people, and it eventually leads to more custom anyway for you as a brand. But
Yeah, definitely. I think there's so much value in like that human connection point, for sure. Sort of then just like moving the conversation on a tiny bit, I guess something that definitely is becoming more and more of a factor in the hospitality sector at the moment, not that it wasn't before, is costs and like ever increasing costs. And sort of, I wanted to ask you guys, maybe starting with you, Tom, sort of how much responsibility you feel to keep your prices accessible rather than, you know, just sort of pushing that price cost onto the consumer, and where you feel that balance is. Yeah,
I mean, it's, you know, it's tough, it's tricky, but I think it comes back down to what everyone's been saying about the value, and it's not just about making it cheap, it's about do people leave feeling they've had value for money. And that, you know, that's where you've got to be clever with your menus, it's not all about, you know, just launching luxury ingredients here, there and everywhere, you know, willy-nilly. It's like, what have you done with these dishes? Are they amazing? Have they had really good service? And I like to think that's what's sort of got us off to a good start, is people leave feeling like they've had value for money, and you've got to get that balance, you know, like it's not right to just, the easy thing would be just increase your prices. As everything goes up, we do the same, but I don't feel that's, so I think it's more about being clever with your menus, like trying to, you know, work out a way that works for everybody, you know, keeps us busy, keeps people coming back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would completely echo what Tom said. I think that it's really hard, but we are always like super vigilant about wanting to be accessible, or as accessible as we can be, without compromising the producers that we are trying to champion and the ingredients that we're really proud of. So I think really the best way to mitigate that is to be as dynamic as you can, you know, with how you're working with what you have, how you're communicating that to the people that are coming into your restaurant. Changing the menu as often as you can to minimize waste is something that we try and do a lot. So we'll sit down at the end of every day and have a load of problems of, oh, we don't have enough of this to run this on the menu. Okay, let's use it in a different way and do this with it, and then we can have enough portions of something else, for example. And then, of course, I think working with whole animals is also another part of that for us, in terms of really trying to figure out the best way forward in moving through this carcass and trying to find where all the parts are going to go and how you're going to use it, how you're not going to waste anything. Is how we try to be dynamic with the produce that we have. And I feel like this allows us to keep moving forward, you know, with keeping our set menu the same price and trying to change it as often as we can is the only thing that we can do, really.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally at the moment, I feel like now so more than ever I am in contact with so many suppliers and I feel like it is a really, really competitive, it's kind of, just talking to Sam the other day, my boss, just comparing it to like the stock market, when you just are competing with different suppliers all the time and just giving new people a chance to like get into your restaurant and like new producers. And like I've got a friend who's a head grower at Linley Farm and I'm trying to help them get up to Manchester a little bit more and just, yeah, like giving her an idea of what I'm currently paying with other people and just so giving people a chance. But yeah, just trying to keep costs down and just like being proactive in terms of waste. Like we've got staff dinner on our menu that we sell to customers that will be a big point for our waste products in the kitchen. So I think, yeah, and it just gives like the young chefs in our kitchen, like it's their dishes that are going on the menu that people are paying for, I think, as well. But yeah, it's just being proactive with talking to lots of people and just making sure you've got a plan for your waste products and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of you basically, but what I found impressed with is a lot of what Tom said is that you can't just fill the menu with every chef's dream. Like, I don't think it works like that to get people to order, if you're doing small plates or sharing or whatever it is, to get them to order a good range of it by, you know, if you want to put lobster on, that's fine, but then you can't have loads of other, you know, big bougie stuff. Like, it's being creative with then the cheaper ones so that it's still fun for a chef to be able to come up with something, but then the guests probably even prefer those ones because so much more thought has gone into them and they're so much more detailed, and trying to be, yeah, really creative with stuff to give that luxury experience, but more, again, in the work that's gone into it rather than just the core product of it.
Yeah, and definitely, like you say, I think that's like a fun, creative challenge for chefs to take on. And then sort of staying in the same kind of area, in terms of keeping your restaurants actually busy, sort of with the age of social media and everything else, as a chef sort of leading their restaurant, is that something which you feel more of a responsibility to partake in activities outside your cooking? Do you sort of feel like now you need to go beyond the kitchen in order to keep your restaurant busy, or is that something you don't necessarily feel is your responsibility? Maybe starting with Danny this time and then working over.
I mean, yeah, I do think it is. I mean, it's probably the reason why all four of us are sat here, is because the more exposure you get, the more people you talk to. I mean, I, for one, have done a cooking show in the last year that has been unbelievable exposure for the restaurant, and without that show, the restaurant would have not nearly been as busy as it was. Yes, it was always busy on the weekends, but like, it's hard to fill a suburb restaurant on a Wednesday, Thursday. So I think that, unfortunately, it's the chefs are much more preferred to be watched on TV. So it definitely falls on our role. But I think the more people nowadays want to know your story, they want to know how you got into it, why you got into it, you know, was it your nana you cooked with, or who was it? Like, it's all part of the exposure of it. And I'm not very big on social media, but since I've been told to be, it's definitely like you can see then your profile grows more, and you know, you meet more people, which is nice, and the more people that are saying nice things about you, then it can only be better for the restaurant, really.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think, personally speaking, with the interaction that I get, I think when I go out to eat and I like to post where I'm eating, or I'm posting of just even what I'm baking or like making at home, I get so much interaction because people want to see what you as a chef are doing, not in a professional kitchen, I think. And they're just like, what does this person actually eat when they're not in the kitchen, you know? And I think if you cook something at home and then you post it and then they come here and they see it on staff dinner, they're like, okay, I want to go for that, you know? So I think, yeah, just on a personal level, people want to see what you're doing as a normal person and not a chef, I think.
Yeah, I would say, obviously I can't really speak towards what it feels like to feel that responsibility as a business owner. But I think that what we try and do, which we're really excited about, is do things with people that we know and love, you know, like friends in other restaurants, like celebrate together as a team, like what both kind of businesses are doing. And we quite often have like a collaboration thing, like on a Sunday, for example, with friends from far and wide. And it really helps us to, I suppose, expand our reach to new and different guests. But I mean, we just, I think for me personally, what I try and do is make sure that we are as consistent as possible in what we're doing. And I feel like that's where the responsibility lies.
Yeah, I agree with it. I mean, ultimately, I am dog shit on like Instagram and stuff. Like, we have a marketing team who are really good and like they help me out, but I'm useless for it. But I've done stuff like Great British Menu and the Roux Scholarship, stuff like that, and doing those things does really give you a boost and get your name out there. But then I totally agree. Like, if you're not consistent in your restaurant, if it's one thing getting people in, but then you've got to make sure that they have a good time when they actually get there. So I think it can really help, and it can really help in getting your name out there, but it can't distract you too much from what it is you're doing at the restaurant.
Yeah, definitely. And then sort of, you mentioned, Danny, that it's been a really nice way to meet people in the industry and kind of like sort of, I think, and sort of you mentioned earlier, Rosie, about sort of it being a really inspiring environment to be cooking in because of how close-knit the Manchester community is, and sort of, I've kind of forgotten what I was going to ask, to be honest. But I think it was something around, I don't know, I'll move on. I guess thinking about kind of like we've been speaking about the current state of the Manchester food scene, thinking about the next couple of years, kind of like, starting with you, Tom, like where do you want to see both Skof go and maybe like the wider restaurant scene in Manchester go? Sort of like, what do you maybe think is currently lacking? What could be exciting? Sort of, yeah, where do you want to see things go?
I don't think it is lacking. I think it's amazing, and like I've said from the beginning, like I've been like really proud to come into what's already like a thriving hospitality scene, and you know, add our little part into it. And you know, like when it got announced that we were opening, I was like shitting myself. But the amount of people from the industry, people I'd never even met, like reached out to me on social media and was just like offering us support. If you need anything, give them a shout. Like, you know, so I'm excited to see what's coming next. But I wouldn't say it's lacking for myself. I think it's brilliant.
I think maybe the only thing that I could think of would be from a produce perspective. Like, I'd really, really love it if Manchester had a good fish market. Like, really, really love it. And also, I would say, like, a better connection and kind of availability of, like, organic veg, like, even more so than there is right now. To have, like, a sort of, like, market, like maker's market kind of thing would be amazing.
Yeah, I definitely, I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah, I just really like would miss that kind of like Billingsgate, and then just like the midnight meat market and things like that. Just to see that here would be amazing. It would be such a great asset to all of our restaurants, and just more amazing restaurants would be great as well, just more restaurants.
Yeah, I was going to say what you two said, like, you know, you've got like a fish market, but you've not got a lot of like just fishmongers that are excellent in that. Like, you've got a couple of butchers, but you've got more butchers on the outside of the city centre in the suburbs, but like also just a really good food place that's not a supermarket that's owned by some huge company. Like, you don't have a lot of that type of stuff that you do in London and in other cities in the world as well. And I think that'd be really good for restaurants especially, but also then for the customer that's going out and then cooking that for themselves to then want it even more when they go out, which I think it'd increase everybody really.
Yeah, do you think there's any reason why those types of things you've mentioned currently aren't here? Is it a lack of appetite previously, or just kind of like no one's done it? I don't know, like...
I don't know really. I mean, I think maybe just...
Funding as well.
Yeah, funding, the money for it. You know, I don't know, maybe just someone in this room's now going to do it. Now we've all the chefs have said it's a really great idea. That's next.
Cool. And yeah, Danny, I kind of wanted to ask, with Osma moving into city centre sometime soon, sort of, what are you most excited about in that sort of new challenge, and sort of maybe sort of like what are you hoping to bring with you from Prestwich, and what are you hoping to sort of develop from it?
I mean, I hope I'll bring all the customers that we had. That would be ideal first. I think it was, looking back on it, it was a really nice idea to open in a suburb first, because I think we created a lot of neighbourhood vibes and a lot of customers that are now friends, and I hope that they obviously follow. But I would be excited to do the same type of version wherever we end up. I think I'm excited now, but I think I'll get a little bit more nervous closer to the time. But I'm also excited to do what we did, but just bigger and better and more controlled, like with low amount of staff, and the way we opened in COVID and everything. It just feels like the last 5 years was an absolute blur. Like, I don't even remember most of it. So it would be nice to be able to do it, one, having rested first, but then two, to just do everything in a better version than how we were doing it, hopefully, and just improve everything, and the food, the service, the vibe, all of it really. And also to have more industry people in. We never really got that a lot. Like, we had a few that knew about us, but people never travelled outside of the city centre. Whereas when I go out in town, everybody knows everybody and everybody sees everybody, and we kind of lacked that connection to the industry in the suburb. We got it from the friends and the family, but we missed it like everybody else gets in the city.
Yeah, and then kind of thinking about what you were saying about the staffing side of things with how it was in Prestwich, sort of with this growing sort of, or like already amazing, like you say, sort of food scene in Manchester, and like it ever growing, are you finding it, obviously there's already like an amazing raft of chefs here, but are you finding it like there's now almost a wealth of talent here, with kind of like people being drawn into the city, or sort of, yeah, how are you finding the staffing side of things? Maybe slightly, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky that we've still got the same team that we opened with like a year ago, and I think that's been it's a mixture of people who I've worked with in the past, and then some chefs who were working locally, and they've all done an amazing job, you know. And yeah, just try and keep all the people for as long as you can. When you get all the good people, you don't want to lose them, you know. But yeah, all the chefs who came on board who I hadn't worked with before, 3 of them were all from Manchester, and they've all done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of talent in the city. Similarly, with High Grounds, we've really tried to like create a climate for the team where people come and work with us, and then they don't leave. And really, I think we've seen a lot of success in what we're trying to do for like all of us working together in terms of work-life balance, in terms of pay, in terms of hours, you know, everything. So a lot of the people that were there when High Ground opened are still there now. And all the people that have arrived since are incredibly talented. So I have nothing but positive things to say about that.
Yeah, I don't think here we've found a huge issue with staffing, because we just, again, like you guys, we just want to really make a nice working environment for everybody that's here. and probably something that we've all felt that we might not have had at some point in our careers. And I just think it's really important for people to have work-life balance and just, to be honest, not do more than 48 hours a week. I don't want to do it, so I don't think any of them should do it. So, yeah, and just trying to keep the core team like we have from the start, like Callum, who's in the kitchen, has been here from the start. And I just, yeah, just look after your chefs and you won't have a problem, I don't think.
I mean, I feel like I'm the only one to say this in a bad way now, because you're all saying good things, but we've found good staff and they've made us what we have, but there was just so few of them. Like for 7 months, it was just me and one other chef doing a lot every single week. So with the ones we have found have actually lived in town and then come out to us, but there's just not enough that do go out to the suburbs. But I get that, you know, because there is so many good places in town, they don't need to. So I'm excited to eventually be in town and to be able to say exactly the same things they're saying. But I've also noticed that just from us announcing that we were moving, we then got, they definitely didn't read it properly, but we then got like 6 applicants overnight when we announced that we were relocating, which already says a lot about the decision that we did make to do it, which is nice. So it was kind of reassuring in a way, because we were a little bit scared about that. So just being in exhibition more every day, you know, many people saying like, oh, so when's it opening? And like, I'm not allowed to tell you type of thing. But it's really reassuring to know that when we do open, we will have staff that do apply and we'll be able to do it properly.
Yeah, I guess on that positive note, well, yeah,